Hello, Jeremy here, and this week I'd like to talk about one of my favorite Beach Boys albums, Friends. Now, this album is a special album to me. When I was going down the Beach Boys rabbit hole for the first time, this was the first album that I came across that I loved that wasn't recommended to me by anybody else. I just started going through the catalog. I had already heard Pet Sounds, I had heard Smile, of course I knew the earlier albums. I think maybe I'd even found Sunflower and Surf's Up, but then I just kept going. I said, what's this album, Friends? I like the title, great title. And I remember listening to it for the first time. It was one of those special moments where you realize you are listening to one of your all-time favorite albums for the first time as it's happening, going through each track, saying, I love this. How could I have not heard about this album before? I think this album is it's getting out there more. More people are talking about it. It's not a showy album, and you can see why at the time it didn't make a huge splash. You know, you could throw some shade at this album and call it easy listening. Well, it is easy to listen to. It's probably the easiest album of theirs for me to listen to because I can put it on in almost any mood, and it sits just right there for whatever I'm feeling. I don't usually talk this much about the albums up front, but because this is one of my favorite albums, I can't help myself. I love the cover. Look at this cover. Look at this cover. Doesn't this cover just kind of say everything about what you're going to hear when you put it on? I love the clouds. I love, this thing. So you've got Bruce. I was confused for a while as to who that was. Kind of looks like Brian, but I believe it's Carl. And of course there's Mike in his cowboy hat phase, Dennis, Al, Brian. And some people think that that's Paul McCartney. Well, I don't blame them. I don't think it is, but I once did a freehand drawing when I was like 7, and it ended up looking just like Gene Wilder. And I think this is probably something similar. Paul was on the brain of the artist who actually did the cover art. Let me see. David McMacken did this cover illustration. I like the back too. It's a picture of the ocean, very appropriate for a Beach Boys album, but the sunset, when I see the back of this, I think of Diamond Head. And I think of kind of the one flaw for me in this entire album, and that would be the closing track. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, no, Transcendental Meditation. It's Brian playing this funny joke about, you want to talk about Transcendental Meditation. Here's this loud, brash, dissonant track with all these saxophones for you to meditate to. And sure, that's fine. But every time I get to the end of this album, this is not the track I want to hear when it's done. I used to listen to this album, when I would want to fall asleep. And every time I get to this last track, it just kind of wake me up, jolt me, and I'd say, that's not pleasant. Why did Brian do that? Again, is it a big joke? Or did he, sincerely love this track, or is it both? Everybody says it. It's something that's been said for a very, very long time. Ever since those two first came out, and I think someone suggested it in the liner notes, I Went to Sleep would fit there better. And it would fit there better. And then there's going to be some other voices that come in and say, no. Not I Went to Sleep. That was written after this album was finished. Okay, that's fine. But we're in imaginary world now. So I would say I Went to Sleep would fit here better? If we weren't gonna do I Went to Sleep, what other song that had been already written would have closed out this album better? That's a good question, something I don't have the answer to. Maybe you do. If so, let me know in the comments. Or maybe you love Transcendental Meditation. I like the track, I just don't like it on this album. I don't like where it sits. I mean, maybe it could have gone at the end of side... Oh... Yeah, maybe it could have gone on the end of side 1, and then side 2 could have ended with Passing By. I don't know. It's a near perfect album for me, though. I mean, it's a 10 out of 10, and I know I just said all that about Transcendental Meditation, but it's a 10 out of 10 for me. Love this. All the songs are my favorite. Can't choose one. Let's talk about the pressings, though, because that's what I usually talk about. The pressings. I'm holding here an original 1968 stereo pressing. It's in pristine condition. And it sounds great. Now, the thing about Friends on vinyl is you're going to be hard-pressed, that's a pun, to find any bad pressing of this album. It's rare in that way, because that can't be said for most Beach Boys albums. And if you have an original pressing of this album, it's one of the best. Now, this album is in stereo, and it didn't really have a mono version. This is, I think, the first album that, at least in the US, only came out in stereo. There is a mono version, I think, that came out in Europe. The UK, and if you go and listen to the Mixology podcast, which I would strongly recommend, it's all about the differences between mono and stereo of certain albums. Fred on there talks about the mono version of this album, and he thinks that it is a fold down. Either way, I do want to get a hold of that UK mono. I don't have that one yet. I have this one. This one sounds great. If you can find an original copy, get an original copy, because you're going to really, really like it. Next up is the 1974 twofer, the one that has Friends and Smiley Smile. Don't worry about the Smiley Smile, it's no good. But the Friends on here, it's very, 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 very good. Very, very good. Very warm, a lot of bass. A lot of bass. On an album that already has a pretty strong bass in the EQ, this one pumps it up even more. And one could say that it's almost too much. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I would say that you're not getting as much clarity out of this version as you do in the original pressing, but it's very nice. It's very warm, and because there is so much kind of stark separations with the vocals being in the middle and the instruments being panned right and left, you're already getting quite a bit of separation anyways, and so I think that big bass boost, it works. Doesn't drown everything out. Sounds beautiful. I really, really like this. For a long time, this was the only copy that I had of this album, and I really fell in love with it. So much so that when I heard other pressings, I kind of still missed this one. If you can get a nice copy of this one, just kind of slip it into an old cover or a new cover, because this cover sucks. And then lastly, I only have one other pressing to show you. I have the 1980 green label. Of course, I'm gonna bring this one out. I love these green labels. I love them a lot. I think last time I talked about a green label in depth, I talked about the 2020 green label, and I think I put it below the twofer version. I don't know. I don't know what I would do for this one. This one is very, very good. Very, very good. Very, very good. Definitely one of the best pressings. Very much like the Wild Honey green label. It sounds like the original pressing, just clearer. Just a lot more clarity. Without sacrificing any of the beautiful mids and lows. You know, a lot of times now, when you get clarity, you get all this treble boost. Not so. That's what's so miraculous about these green labels. It's just, you know, taking another layer of haze off the album. Again, this is after the party album on the Green Label series, so you're not going to get any missing tracks, which is good because this is a pretty short album. You'll know that it's a Green Label by this little thing up here. Also doesn't have like the black border going around the top and the side. But yeah, solid. Aside from all of these, there's also the 2014 reissue, which is digitally sourced, which I actually haven't heard. It's quite expensive to find those 2014 reissues. And in my experience, I own a lot of those 2014 reissues. They don't sound very good. I think at first people get fooled by those 2014 reissues because maybe you're used to an old scratched up copy or something, and then suddenly you get all of this clarity from a brand new pressing. But I think the longer you sit with it and you compare it with any analog pressing, you realize very quickly that there's something about those 2014 reissues that just sound dead and lifeless. I've gone through all the albums that I have. I think I have the 1985 album, I have Keeping the Summer Alive, I have MIU, I have LA Light, I have 15 Big Ones, I have Carl and the Passions, I have 2020, I have some of their concert albums. Anyways, I've compared all of those, and I would say in every scenario, the older pressings win by a landslide. So be careful out there with those 2014 reissues. You might get sold one that's brand new, but even brand new, I just say they don't sound very good. So I would spend your money elsewhere. I would find this 1980 version, or I would get the 1974, the warm bath version. I would also encourage you to find the original pressing. You can't really get a bad version of this album that's analog. And it's fairly easy to find still. These aren't that expensive. If I had to choose a favorite, I would... I can't choose. I like all of them, and I like to listen to all three of them. And this is maybe the first time where I don't have a favorite. Now, if anybody out there has a mono copy, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, if you've listened to it very much, and what you think of it, and if you like it. I can't say enough about this album. Favorite tracks for me, personally, I'm just gonna start listing all the... Yeah, the only thing I would just say is Transcendental Meditation is... wouldn't be my pick for the final edit. So anyways, that's it.